Welcome to Britain's second city, Birmingham, for the 10th round of the 1988 Pirelli Porsche Club Great Britain Production Porsche Championship. This is Robin Bradford introducing you to what is going to be an exciting first time ever experience for the Porsche racers here on the streets of Birmingham. We start the story of the weekend in qualifying on Sunday for the race which will be taking place tomorrow. Here is the first opportunity for these guys to get used to the tunnel of Armco that they're going to be racing through on the following day and to pick up the qualifying times they need. We'll get a lap of the circuit in a moment with Dickie Attwood, the former Grand Prix driver, second at Monaco in 1969 and now making a guest appearance in the Porsche 944, normally driven by Tiff Needell. That's it, just the second car in the shop there as we go in car with Dickie for a lap of the 2.47 mile circuit at Birmingham. From the start then into the first left-hander, that's Molly Slip corner, and as the name might suggest, quite a slippery corner it's proving to be. Up now to the right and left flick of the Pie Chicane, and on now to the long straight of Peter Barwell Hill, named after the Birmingham City Councillor who was so instrumental in getting this exciting street racing project, Britain's only street racing project, off the ground. They're going in the opposite direction to the way that this dual carriageway is normally used day to day, and very fast approach uphill towards the Halford corner, this sweeping left-hander round the far end. It's a roundabout in normal use, although going the opposite direction. Quick twist of the wrist there from Dickie Attwood to correct the 944's angle on the road. Changes up through the gears. Now along Belgrave Middleway we go, up towards the very tricky right-hander. The next corner coming up is Ferodo Corner, where the cars are braking for now. There's Dickie going down through the gears, turns into the right-hander. Oh, is he going to miss this action ahead? Yes, he does. Dickie Attwood gets through cleanly, but a couple of the Porsches there off at Ferodo Corner. Keith Russell, number 11, taking with him there number 21. That was Ian Exeter. Now we're storming down Metro Straight, another corner coming up. This will be Loctite Corner, directly in front of the wholesale market in the centre of Birmingham, through this left-hander. And Dickie takes that one very smoothly indeed, runs out wide on the exit of that corner because there's another much tighter left-hander here, this 90 left at Zenith Corner there, and oh dear, Dickie very nearly made a bit of an error there. No room for error, of course, on a street circuit with the Armco barriers so close to the car, no runoff areas except at the corners. And here we are approaching the little right-hand flick there before the left-hander. This is Shell Turn, and this is the turn that takes you back onto Bristol Street and up past the start and finish line just there. And a wave of the finger from Dickie indicates that that particular lap was okay, but not okay for 109. That's the 911 SC Porsche of Tom Freitag. He's in a sand trap, and here coming into the pits, and this will be disappointing for him, is Chris Millard, local jeweller from Birmingham, a man obviously very keen to get a good result in his local race. Gets up to his pits, he's got a problem.
Something's gone off at the back. I don't know if it's a boost or what, but something's gone.
So sounds as though he's got a turbocharger problem possibly. As we go out to continue looking at practice, number 12, that's Martin Harvey in his Carrera. There directly ahead of him, as we've already seen once, is number 38 there, that's Dickie Attwood. Well, the Porsche Club, this will be the 10th round of their championship in Birmingham. It's divided into 4 classes, this championship, not by capacity, as so many classes are, but by the power that the engines develop. The cars in this first race, Class A and Class B, they're for cars in Class A that develop more than 208 brake horsepower, and in Class B, those cars that develop between 181 and 207 brake horsepower. The checkered flag there, used at the end of races, of course, is also used to indicate the end of practice. Well, the grid is formed. Mike Jordan from Yardley is on pole position. Alongside him, Nick Wenham in his Porsche 911 ST. On the inside of the second row, third quickest in practice, will be Chris Millard, Nick Wenham's teammate, and alongside Millard will be journalist Tony Dron in the Porsche 928S. The third row of the grid, fifth and sixth quickest in practice, number 11, Keith Russell, and 38, Dickie Attwood. Well, as the cars line up on the grid for the Birmingham 10th round of this series, already we see a drama because there's no car on the inside of the second row of the grid, which means Chris Millard, the man who had a problem in practice yesterday, is missing. His teammate Nick Wenham, however, is on the outside of the front row of the grid, and the engine notes rise for the start, and here they come, storming away from the start with Nick Wenham on the outside of the front row, and poleman Mike Jordan, the men pulling away best, but it's Wenham who has the best of the advantage at the moment as they reach Molly Slip, the left-hander, for the first time. Wenham it is who leads as they go up towards the Pie Chicane, that cheeky little right and left flick. The extra power of Wenham's turbo, of course, helping out. Jordan in second place, Keith Russell is third at present, with Tony Dron there in fourth place. There was a 10-second delay before the start of the Class B cars, and here they come into Molly Slip Corner for the first time, with John Morrison, Brian Robertson, Graham Leask and John Fletcher, the men at the head of the field there. But back with the Class A cars up at Halford's Corner. Wenham, the turbocharged car, giving him a tremendous advantage on that long uphill straight, is now finding that the non-turbocharged car of Mike Jordan snapping at his heels. Jordan pulls alongside as they go down Belgrave Middleway, but again the extra power of that turbo tells as they come up towards the right-hander at Ferodo Corner. As the Class B cars are approaching Halfords, you catch a glimpse of them in the right of the screen there. Here at Ferodo for the first time, it's a 10-lap race this. Nick Wenham's going to have to need all his guile for these 10 laps to keep Mike Jordan behind him, but he's succeeding in so doing at the moment. Wenham first, Jordan second, Keith Russell third. They come along Metro Straight now. Already the front runners pulling away, and Jordan challenges as they approach Loctite Corner, and Mike Jordan moves into the lead. A very smooth manoeuvre there as they approach the left-hand corner, but Jordan very nearly loses it on the exit of Loctite. But he succeeded in holding it, and now he's got a length of, an advantage of about a length there as they go through Loctite and up Pershaw Street. Well, Mike Jordan, the man who definitely chose the moment there to move into the lead, so that when the lap charters start filling in the squares on their lap charts at the end of this first lap, the leaders are going to be in the following order at the end of this lap. Mike Jordan leads. Second is Nick Wenham. Third is Russell. Fourth is Tony Dron. Already the leading duo pulling away from the rest of the field. See how hard Mike Jordan's having to work, sawing away at the wheel of his 911 there, because the narrow tunnel of the Armco through which they're racing, see how close, for instance, there he goes to the Armco, is a real challenge to these drivers. Most of these races, of course, take place on parkland circuits or purpose-built racing circuits. Here, for the first time in the Pirelli Championship, they find themselves faced with the real challenge of city racing. And Wenham, the power of the turbo again telling as they come up that hill, in a position to challenge for the lead. Through the sweeping left-hander at Halfords they go, but Jordan has the better line at the exit. Wenham unable to get past him. Wenham tries to pull alongside on Belgrave Middleway and succeeds in so doing. His front wheels are alongside the rear wheels of Jordan's car, and now he's almost all the way alongside, but of course it's a right-hand corner. Jordan there with the tighter inside line, he's the man with the advantage. But surely on the exit of the corner, Wenham can put the power down a bit more. But no, and behind them, another battle developing there for third place. Keith Russell being challenged for that place by Tony Dron in the Porsche 928, the first of the non-911s, and Dron's done it. A winner in 17 different categories of car is Tony Dron, including winning his class in this championship last year. And now he's passed into third place. He may well be in a position to challenge those two ahead of him. Still in the order, Mike Jordan and Nick Wenham. Looking behind the leading two, we see that Dron is so far unable to shake off the man he's just passed. That's number 11, Keith Russell. But it's early days yet. It's a 10-lap race, and they're just completing their second lap now, with Mike Jordan an advantage of about 8 lengths over second place Nick Wenham. Third is Tony Dron. Fourth is Russell. But we're watching Tony Dron and his efforts to pull away from Keith Russell. There he goes through Molly Slip Corner. The 928S, of course, he drives a larger car than the 911s and much more of a handful round the streets of Birmingham here. It's a front-engined car, whereas, of course, the 911 is a rear-engined car, and that means the handling capabilities are different, and Tony has rather more of a problem with it. Keith Russell's beginning to gain on Tony once again. Third and fourth, the battle here, but Dron holds it in the AFN Porsche entry. They arrive at Halford's Corner through that sweeping left-hander, and just ahead of Dron we can see a very, very wide, very tail-happy approach to the corner there by Nick Wenham. He's losing time all the time now, corner after corner, on the man who passed him a lap or so ago, the man currently in the lead, Mike Jordan. Still third and fourth then are Tony Dron here, just leading Keith Russell, but behind them a terrific battle is building up. Mike Burt is lying in 5th place at present, and behind him is Dickie Atwood, and here we are in car with Dickie. That's Mike Burt's car directly ahead of him, and Dickie is giving chase. They've just gone through Ferodo Corner there, Dickie at the wheel of the 944, regularly campaigned by Tiff Niddell. Along Metro Straight they go. The 944 gaining a little bit on the 911 of Mike Burt as they approach Loctite bend there. See how hard Dickie's working at keeping the 944 close to Mike Burt. closes up even more as they get to the 90-degree left at Zenith corner, but very twitchy there for Atwood. That will have cost him a split second or two. That won't make it quite so easy to get past the man he's challenging. This then, the battle for 5th place, through that little right-hand flick before the left-hander of Shell corner and on to Bristol Street. Right with him, Atwood is now, less than a couple of lengths in it as they go along this long straight. Is he going to have enough power to pull alongside as they approach the left-hander at Molly Slip? Yes, he does. Will Mike Burt's fight back? Can Atwood hold it? We just catch a glimpse of Mike Burt's car and Dickie Atwood's mirror. That means Atwood's moved up a place. There he is, up into 5th place at number 38, the 944S, with Mike Burt, number 3, behind him in 6th. Being in car does give you an impression of the speed with which Yarmco flashes by the driver, and Dickie Atwood, of course, a man well experienced in this sort of racing, and he's certainly having to work very hard in what, of course, for Dickie is a very rare appearance nowadays in a racing car. Behind those two, there's another battle for 7th place going on, with Bill Taylor and Chris Banks, the next men up in the field, with 3 laps already completed by the leaders, and the leader, of course, is still Mike Jordan. There's Atwood in 5th place, and there behind those two Porsches at the head of the field on the screen there is that battle for 7th place, with Taylor and Banks diving to one side, trying to find ways round one another, and of course that isn't easy on this very tight circuit. Fastest lap we see already, Nick Wenham there, a 1:49.70. That was doubtless very early in the race when he was trying to hold off Mike Jordan, which was something that, of course, as we'd already seen, he's been unable to do. Still here at the moment with 5th place man, Dickie Atwood. He goes through Loctite Curve, and it looks to me as though he's going to be approaching the men directly ahead of him, and of course 4th place ahead of him is going to be Keith Russell. Will he be able to get past Keith Russell's 911 with the comparative ease that we saw him get past Mike Burt just a little while ago? Here though, coming up to complete their 4th lap of the demanding Birmingham Street circuit, the two men at the head of the field. There's Mike Jordan, number 1, with behind him in 2nd place, number 5, Nick Wenham. Mike Jordan, who won this championship last year, has been driving this year consistently the quickest of the non-turbocharged cars. Nick Wenham, Millard, people like that, they're all driving with turbocharged engines. On circuits such as Silverstone, for instance, or Donington Park, the power of the turbo is particularly important, and frequently Mike Jordan has found himself the bridesmaid and never quite the bride. This time, however, on his home circuit, Mike lives just down the road in Yardley. He's the man who really is proving that he knows his way around Birmingham. 0.87 of a second his advantage at the moment. Watch carefully the different driving styles. Jordan's a little bit tidier than Nick is, but then of course Nick's got the higher power of that turbo, and of course the turbo cuts in and out and frequently can just catch you off guard. Look here as they come down towards Ferodo once again. Closing right up on the man ahead of him. Nick Wenham manages to, as they've come at the end of that straight. But through the corner, Jordan's just got that little bit additional controllability of his car. But this time, Wenham's going to challenge as they come down the Metro straight. Remember, it's the left-hander at Loctite coming up next. But Jordan had the tighter line for Loctite. Wenham didn't manage to find enough power. So Jordan goes through Zenith, still in the lead, but the lead is only just a couple of lengths, and that's not much with another 6 laps or so of the demanding street circuit here at Birmingham yet to go. Tony John edging closer to the leading duo now as we see him pulling further and further away from 4th place man Keith Russell, and looking to the far end of Pershaw Street there we can see how 5th place man Dickie Atwood is gaining on 4th place Keith Russell. 4 laps completed by the leading cars then as they go through Molly Slip for the 5th time. Jordan leading from Wenham once again. And in car with Wenham's teammate now, he's only completed a couple of laps of course, Chris Millard. He's the man who failed to start at the beginning of the race. His car was missing from the grid. Chris, a jeweller from Birmingham, a local man, was very keen to put on an impressive performance at his local circuit. Sadly, with mechanical problems which troubled him in practice yesterday, repeated themselves in the warm-up today, not managing to run at the head of the field, but running very quickly indeed in the Grafton Software Swinford Motors car. Through the right-hander at Ferodo he goes. Remember, this is the twin turbocharged Martini Porsche to the car of Nick Wenham that is lying in 2nd place at the moment. These two teammates, also great friends, have managed to be part of the really happy scene that is the Pirelli Porsche Championship. Now he's going to be not so much lapping a slower car, but he's going to have to get himself past a slower car if he's going to make this a pretty quick lap, which it certainly looks as though it's going to be. Dives down the inside of that slower car as he gets to zenith. Twitch of opposite lock there to keep the Porsche in a straight line, and a very polite wave to the man who pulled over and led him past as well. That's the sort of camaraderie we like to see in British club racing. Through the left-hand flick at shell, more opposite lock to correct the powerful Porsche turbo there, and along the Bristol Street straight, across the start and finish line, past the timekeeper's box, of course, the main commentary position. Back briefly with the leaders, but before we do so, there we see the fastest lap in the race so far, and that was the lap when we were in car with Chris Millard, a 1:48.37. That represents an average speed around the Birmingham circuit of 82.05 miles an hour. And with Armco so close to you either side, that is an impressive lap time indeed. Back with the leaders now, Mike Jordan, half distance completed, still leads from Nick Wenham. These two, very much the class of the field, a long, long way away from any of their opposition. Wenham's got a real problem facing him now. He must be getting a little bit tired apart from anything else, because that Porsche Turbo is a difficult car to drive at speed, particularly in the confines, such as they have here. But he challenges again. Remember, the powerful turbocharger is going to enable him to retake the lead, but is it? No, as they get up to Halfords once again. Nick was on the outside, which is the wider line. He'd have found it very difficult to drive all the way round the outside and very sideways on the way out of Halfords there. Nick is really trying everything he knows to get past Mike Jordan ahead of him, not succeeding in so doing. And now we're back in car with Chris Millard, the fastest man on the track. The Birmingham jeweller really storming through the field as he tries to make up for all that lost time in the pits at the start of the race, but it looks as though he might lose it at Molly Slip Corner. Good Lord, yes he did, and he thumped the tyre wall well and truly there. Well, he tries to restart the car. I wonder whether he thinks no. He finds that he can't get the car going, and look, you can see why. Wedged firmly against the Armco, the tyre wall destroyed all around him. Yellow flag waved by the marshal indicates not only his car, but a second car which has spun, probably coming round Molly Slip and finding the stricken Millard ahead of him. It's 1:23, which is Mario Pidlacchiari from Class 2. He, however, has got himself going. The yellow flags waved indicate to other competitors that they must not overtake in that area of the circuit, and indicates that there is a problem that they've got to be aware of. And the first people who are going to become really aware of it are the leaders. They're completing their 6th lap out of 10. Mike Jordan now puts his headlights on. A, I think to indicate to the marshals that he's aware of the drama, and B, of course, as he picks his way through some of these slower back markers, they need to know that he's the man leading the race. What a disappointment that'll be for Nick Wenham, second. He's just seen his teammate Chris Millard's stricken car wedged against the Armco. Let's hope that that doesn't put him off too much in what is still an enthralling battle at the head of the field. Now, as the leaders come through some of these slower markers, they're the Class B cars, this is the sort of point in a race where experience often tells over speed. Mike Jordan is a slightly more experienced driver than Nick Wenham, and it may well be that Mike can manage to use that to an advantage. As you go through these slower cars, if you can manage perhaps to place one of these slower runners between yourself and the man who's challenging you, then it costs a split second. But no, Wenham's challenging again. Wenham is challenging this time as they come out towards Ferodo. He's right alongside. Tighter line for Jordan, both of them slipping sideways that time. Wenham, I thought, might be able to look down the inside on the exit of that corner and therefore have a better run at Metro Straight. And look, he's looking to left and right, was looking at the inside as they came up towards the left-hander at Loctite. Now he's on the outside. It's not the right place for him to be. And once again, Mike Jordan it is who holds his advantage at the head of the field in the Pirelli car, number 1, signifying that he was the champion last year. 2 or 3 lengths only his advantage over Nick Wenham, and Wenham is not letting up. Jordan's under an immense amount of pressure, and as we see after 7 laps he has only 0.92 of a second is his advantage, and that is not very much. John still lies in 3rd place, Russell 4th, Atwood 5th and Mike Burt 6th. Those are the positions at the end of 7 laps. Just 3 laps to go in this 10th round for Class A and B of the Pirelli Porsche Club of Great Britain Production Porsche Championship. Back in the car in the 944 with Dickie Atwood, the man who's lying in 5th place. He's challenging Keith Russell. That's the car you can see just disappearing into the distance there as they storm along Bristol Street past the start and finish line. Once again, Dickie signals to his pits that he's read the pit signal. What that'll be telling him is just how far behind he is. There we see for the first time from in-car the stricken Porsche, and see how much narrower it has made the exit of Molly Slip Corner there, a corner which has caught many an experienced driver out this weekend. Onto the straight, Atwood still chasing, but unable to catch the fourth place man Keith Russell, as we're back with the leaders. Mike Jordan in the orange, yellow and white car, with the blue and white car of Nick Wenham, the car that's challenging for the lead once again, but unable to take it. That's Ferodo Corner, the right-hander there. Not enough straight before that corner for the Porsche Turbo of Nick Wenham really to build up enough power. But here again on Metro Straight, once again the power of the Turbo is beginning to tell, and again a mirror image precisely of the previous lap. Nick's right alongside, but he's always to the outside. Mike Jordan very carefully defending the tighter inside line as they approach Loctite turn, not giving Wenham the chance to pull alongside on the inside, because that's how Wenham would get past if he were going to at Loctite. Up the short straight, through Zenith, then here to Shell Corner and onto the start-finish straight once again. 9 laps out of 10 completed when they go across the start and finish line this time. There's the line across the road. They're on their final lap, their last 2.47 miles round Birmingham. And these, of course, are the last opportunities for Nick Wenham to snatch that lead back from Mike Jordan. Remember, Wenham led in the early lap, but then Jordan took it in the second lap, and now he's held it ever since. Can he hold it for this final lap? Through Pie Chicane they go. Remember, we're now on Peter Barwell Hill. This is where the extra power of Nick Wenham's turbo has been to his advantage in the previous laps. And it looks to me as though he's getting closer than he has done in the previous laps. He pulls right alongside as they approach Halford's Corner. They're now roughly at the braking point for the corner. There they are, and the cars very nearly touch. And oh dear, that's going to have cost Nick Wenham a bit of time. Is he going to lose it altogether? No, he doesn't. Well done, Nick. He held that really well. Gathers himself back together to give chase. Down Belgrave Middleway they go. The right-hander at Ferodo Corner looming up. Nick Wenham really has got himself back together very quickly indeed. He looks to try to get down the inside before Ferodo, but he's at the outside. But see how Jordan pulls across to block any opportunity that Wenham would have to pull alongside. Wenham costing himself a split second or two there once again as he walked very loose and untidy there through Ferodo. But now they're on Metro Straight. Approaching Loctite Corner, that's the left-hander, which means that Jordan's got the tighter inside line, but Wenham, is he going to try and drive all the way around the outside? No, he's not. Brakes, dives in once again behind Jordan. On that short straight up Pershaw Street to the tight left-hander at Zenith. There's no opportunity to overtake there. Running very wide, little bit tail-happy once again, the turbo of Nick Wenham. Mike Jordan it is who's sustaining this pressure. He said to me before the start of the race how keen he was to win this one on home ground. He's from Yardley, just down the road. Good Lord, he's very close to the Armco there at Shell for the final time. Has Nick Wenham got any extra speed to get past him before they reach the checkered flag? No, he hasn't. So Mike Jordan's the winner, and see the delighted shake of the fist there from Mike Jordan from Yardley near Birmingham. Last year's Pirelli Porsche outright champion and a delighted winner today. Second Nick Wenham, third across the line, there goes Tony Tron. Fourth Keith Russell, he'd managed to hold off any potential challenge from the man who finishes fifth. There he goes in the 944. That was our cameraman Dickie Atwood from the early part of the race. Mike Jordan, a delighted winner, salutes the crowd and the marshals who wave him as he drives past, with Nick Wenham, the man who had challenged him so hard, following along. There are the marshals giving him a well-earned round of applause. And the official results then of the 10th round of the Pirelli Porsche Championship. First, Mike Jordan in his Carrera. Second, Nick Wenham in the 911T. Third, Tony Dron in the 928S. And the Class B winner, Brian Robinson in his Carrera. Welcome to a very damp Birmingham for the 10th round of the Pirelli Porsche Club of Great Britain Production Porsche Series. The competitors in classes C and D, out on the circuit practicing, are finding the conditions not entirely to their liking. This is first thing on Sunday morning, the first of 2 days in the Halford's Superprix meeting, feature race of which, of course, is a round of the International Formula 3000 Championship. Some of the front runners here picking their way through the damp. Number 222 there, that's Barry Robertson. He's been a winner regularly in this series this year. 204, we caught a glimpse there That's Mick Phillips. He's from Birmingham, so perhaps he's been taking the opportunity for a little bit of quiet practice of his own during the previous week. Well, the checkered flag waved there indicates that the qualifying session is over, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if the people involved in it are fairly pleased. They file off, flagged by the marshals, into the support race paddock area. That's normally the wholesale market here in Birmingham, just one of the many municipal facilities which are thrown open for the annual two-day motorsport fiesta. The grid is decided with pole position Barry Robinson, 2:22, 2:04 in second place Mick Phillips. Third quickest in practice, 2:11, Peter Tyson, the marketing director of Pirelli. Fourth quickest, 2:35, Mike Walker. Fifth, 2:06, former production sports car racer Robin Gray. And sixth, 2:01, Bob Watson. Here they are on the grid then, TWR 123, the registration number, 222, the number on the side. That's poleman Barry Robinson. Alongside him, Mick Phillips, the man from Birmingham, looking for a good start and a good result. They're lined up on a damp grid, no longer any rain, but nevertheless it's going to be a wet race. The conditions are going to be very tricky. The lights are red, and as the lights flash to green, who's going to make the best start? It's poleman Barry Robinson, because Mick Phillips on the outside of the front row made an absolutely dreadful start, and he's swallowed up by most of the pack, including up into second place immediately, 2:11 Peter Tyson, but trying to challenge back to get up at least into third place comes 2:04 Mick Phillips down the inside of the first corner here. This is the left-hander at Molly Slip Corner, a corner which has caught many people out during qualifying this weekend and is one that needs to be watched very carefully. But look, Barry Robinson's got an enormous lead in number 222 already. On the first lap, uphill now along Peter Barwell Hill. That's the hill named after the Birmingham City Councillor who did so much to get this motorsport fiesta on the road, up towards the left-hander at Halford's Corner. And the advantage that Barry Robinson, number 222, has got is absolutely immense. Coming up into second place, though, is the man who started from the outside of the front row, Mick Phillips. He's got himself back into second place, but he's got Peter Tyson alongside him. No, Tyson slips back into third as they disappear away from our sight down Belgrave Middleway. This is a dual carriageway in normal Birmingham City use, and the cars would normally be running in the opposite direction. They come down towards Ferodo Corner, a tight right-hander, and challenging for second place once again is number 211, Peter Tyson, but he makes a real mess of that and slips back down into fourth place rather than moving himself up into second. Really made himself a bit of a silly there for Peter, but he'll gather himself back together as he has done, but he's been challenging. He might even lose that fourth place as they come now along the long Metro Straight up towards another left-hander. This time it's Loctite turn just by the support race paddock there, under the Simonized Bridge, up to Zenith Corner, the left-hander, and there number 222, the EWP Porsche 911E of Barry Robinson is the car that is comfortably in the lead, and there's been a coming together there at Zenith Corner. In the rear of the picture, Peter Tyson looks as though he was involved in that once again, and who's that? Who's just gathering himself back together? That's 225, which is David Lees. He was involved in spinning there out of about third or fourth place, right down the field. He restarts towards the tail end of the field, and he's going to have to work hard to get himself back up to where he was in the early stages. With one lap completed then, 222, Barry Robinson leads, and a comfortable lead it is he has too. Of course, with the sort of spray that these cars are kicking up on this very damp circuit here, it means that the man who's in front is the man who can see by far the best. He's the man who's got an absolutely clear idea of what's ahead of him, whereas the cars driving in the spray, although it may not look like very much spray to a road motorist, to a man racing around the streets of Birmingham, that spray means that, for instance, they're having to run with their windscreen wipers on all the time, as you can see on the second place car there, which is 204, Mick Phillips, the local man. He's got his wipers on. He needs them on in order to fend off the spray from race leader Barry Robinson. This race beginning to spread out a little bit already. Not only are there the Class C runners in, of course, but also the Class D battle too. That's just coming up to Halfords now. The blue and white 924 of Peter Bowden. That's the car leading the class, just rounding Halfords Bend there. But with Dave Lentle's 911T tucked right in behind him, a terrific battle there for Class D within this race. Back towards the head of the field, the white 911 approaching Ferodo now is Robin Gray. He's a former production sports car champion, very quick driver indeed, and he's got Peter Tyson, number 211, the man from Pirelli, tucked right in behind him. They're battling for fourth place now as they go through Ferodo Corner and storm off up towards Loctite. Tyson pulling out as they come along Metro Straight now, looking as though he wants to try and challenge Robin Gray. But the perspective of the camera here gives us a slight lie, because he's not quite close enough to him to do it. Leading trio exiting Zenith then. Barry Robinson, number 222, still leads. 204, Mick Phillips is in second place. And he seems as though he's coming under increasing pressure from the man in third place, 201, Bob Watson. Very experienced Porsche racer indeed is Bob, and a man who's been supporting this championship very vigorously since its instigation. The leading trio very evenly matched, but pulled a long way away from the rest of the field. These three now getting more and more comfortable with the circuit. You can see a drying line is beginning to develop. Bit puddly there through Molly Slip. Of course, not being a purpose-built motor racing circuit means that the roads of Birmingham don't necessarily drain quite as well as circuits such as perhaps Silverstone, Donington Park or Brands Hatch. The Birmingham City Council do an immense job preparing this circuit for the annual racing weekend. This is the third time it's been done, and each year the operation becomes more and more slick. Very enthusiastic work goes on throughout the nights of the previous week to build the Armco, block off certain roads, turn roundabouts into motor racing corners. This is Halfords, the big roundabout at the end of the Belgrave Middleway, the junction there of Highgate Middleway, Hayden Way and Belgrave Road, for those who know the city of Birmingham well. Robinson, the leader though, as he comes down towards Ferodo, coming under increasing pressure. The man in second place has gathered himself together now, Mick Phillips, the Birmingham driver, number 204, and now within about 8 or 10 lengths of the leader as they go through the right-hander at Ferodo. You caught a glimpse there of the sand trap which is put there to catch any motor cars that should fall off on that right-hander. It comes, after all, at the end of one of the longest straights on the Birmingham circuit here, and many drivers have been caught out there in the past. Not, however, 222 Barry Robinson. He's managing to keep himself well in command of this 10-lap race. 10th round of the Pirelli series this year, and it won't be the first one he's won either. 8 or 9 lengths his advantage, but Mick Phillips isn't going to let go. 204, he's got the back number plate of Barry Robinson well in his sights, and very twitchy there. You can see there's a little bit of damp there on that little right-hand flick before they go into the left-hander at Shell that is causing them a certain amount of difficulty each time they come round. What has become evident this weekend in Birmingham is the way that different parts of the circuit dry at different times. This is the battle for fourth place. 206 Robin Gray currently holding on to that position. Peter Tyson, number 211, is the man behind him, trying to get that pace from him, not succeeding in so doing, trying to wrest fourth place away. But Robin Gray, a very experienced production sports car racer, and now Pirelli Porsche racer, but Tyson's a lot closer as they go up to that tricky Molly Slip corner this time. He's almost under the rear wing of the Robin Gray car this time. Can Tyson challenge on this lap? Through the Pie chicane, the very tricky right and left flick of the chicane there, partway along Peter Barwell Hill. That, of course, is a roundabout in everyday life as well, and it's the opposite matching side to Ferodo Corner. Superb collection of Porsches raced in this production Porsche Championship, more than 140 registrations. There we see one of the oldest cars in the championship. It is a Porsche 356, appropriately running with the number 356, and that's raced by one of 2 ladies who compete in the series, Caroline Lucas. There she is going through Molly Slip curve, and as you can see, it is a very tricky corner. Braking in the middle of a corner is never a terribly good idea, but sometimes it's a safer bet than sliding off into the very inviting Armco. This beautiful 356, 35 years old that car is. The car, of course, which was the forerunner of the 911, which you see directly behind it, and the family resemblance is plain for all to see. Rear-engined, a very smooth shape, designed, of course, by Dr. Ferdinand von Porsche, the man who, prior to devising the 356, had, of course, designed the Volkswagen Beetle, and you can see a family resemblance, of course, between the Beetle and this 356 and the 911 that is behind it. Back with the lead battle, windscreen wipers still being used by the man in second place, Mick Phillips, but no such worries for Barry Robinson, the man leading the race. Car number 222, registration number TWR123, one of a collection of personalised registration numbers the Barry Robinson family have got. Still he leads, still there's no opportunity for Mick Phillips to make any serious ground. the gap stretching between 5 lengths on some parts of the circuit, up to 10 or 12 lengths on others. Rather like a piece of elastic. He's never allowing the elastic to stretch much further than about 12 lengths of a 911, but McPhillips is never able to get quite close enough, despite the fact that, as you see on the screen, he's set the fastest lap of the race so far, a 2 minute 2.68 seconds. Now, that represents an average speed of 72.48 miles an hour. In the sort of conditions that they're racing round the narrow tunnel of the Armco here on the streets of Birmingham, the 2.47 mile circuit specially laid out, an average speed of 73 miles an hour roughly, means that on the straights such as this, they're probably racing as hard as 100 miles an hour perhaps along these straights, so they're really pulling out all the stops. McPhillips doesn't seem to have quite enough stops to pull out there in number 204 though, because he's not in a position to challenge number 222 Barry Robinson, although he's not being dropped. Robinson, of course, has the advantage of the man first on the road. He hasn't caught up any of the back markers yet, so he hasn't got any problems with picking his way through the traffic. That's the sort of thing in a race like this which can, of course, cause a problem for the leader. It doesn't look as though it's necessarily going to be the case yet. An easily identifiable drying line now down the centre of Metro Straight there, as we see the battle for fourth place, the white car of Robin Gray in fourth place, but Peter Tyson in number 211 in the Pirelli-backed car pulling alongside him. Tyson's going to have the tighter inside line for the left-hander at Loctite turn, and Peter Tyson moves himself up into fourth place, demoting Robin Gray in the process, but Gray fights back once again as they come to the tighter 90-degree left at Zenith. Can he do it? And Tyson's going to lose that fourth place. He's claimed it, but he's going to lose it again. Robin Gray pulls alongside 211 and 206, but Tyson pulls across to close the door. They make contact. Tyson makes it very clear that he doesn't want to have that fourth place claimed back from him. So as they come out of Shell onto Bristol Street, it's Peter Tyson, number 211, now up into fourth place and closing every door on fifth place man, number 206, Robin Gray. Tucked in behind this battling duo is number 235, Mike Walker. That orange car, incidentally, the car which won the Pirelli Porsche Championship outright last year in the hands of Mike Jordan. Well, Tyson very nearly losing it on Pie Chicane there. Very twitchy tail end. Of course, the rear-engined Porsche 911, not the easiest car to drive in the wet. The weight bias towards the rear means that if you get caught out by a damp patch, it's fairly easy to lose the car. But look, this battle now developing into a three-car battle for fourth place. Tyson managing to defend his corner. Robin Gray trying to reclaim the fourth place, but looking as though he might even lose fifth to Mike Walker. They storm round the Halfords corner there. Walker in 235 trying to drive all the way round the outside of 206 Robin Gray and not succeeding. The blue flag being waved there by the marshal, that's an indication to Robin Gray that there is a car attempting to overtake him. The marshals always flag very carefully. Our marshals are famed as the best in the world, the British Motor Racing Marshals Club, an enthusiastic organisation of volunteers, of course. And on a day like this, when they've been standing out there in qualifying and racing in the pouring rain, being a marshal isn't quite the glamorous job that it's often made out to be. Leader then, Barry Robinson once again, but we whiz back to this battle for fourth place, and Tyson still got the fourth. Robin Gray defends his fifth place. Mike Walker goes off, touches the curbing on the outside of Loctite, thumps the Armco barriers on the inside of the corner, doesn't even bother to get out and have a look. Now there's an enthusiastic racer. Mike Walker then, now with a damaged number 235, loses his sixth place to 203, who passes in there. That was Nigel Parry. We see it again in slow motion as he runs very wide in his attempts to pass on the outside of Loctite corner, touches the very slippery painted curbing there, loses the car, spins right round, thumps the Armco barrier very solidly indeed, but as we see the car briefly there stationary, there doesn't appear to be too much damage to the driver's side. Obviously Mike Walker isn't too worried about it because he has pressed on very quickly indeed, although he has lost one place to 203 Nigel Parry in the process of that accident. But no, he's soldiering on despite it. Mike Walker, one of the novices in the Pirelli Porsche Championship this year, and you'll notice that he carries a black cross on the rear of his car, and that is an indication that he is the novice. The black cross on the yellow background, a universal British motorsport sign to say, I'm a new guy in motorsport. Perhaps it says even, overtake me if you will. Class D battles all the way down the field there. That's 324 and 333 there. Jeff O'Connor battling away with John Edwards. Two of the 911s there in Class D, fighting all the way around the Birmingham circuit. Many of these cars, as you can see, do carry registration numbers, and indeed they are frequently used day to day throughout the week. Last year's outright championship winner, Mike Jordan, that was his orange car we saw there damaged in its new owner's hands, Mike Walker. When that car was racing last year with Mike Jordan at the wheel, it even had the family baby seat in the back because Mike couldn't think of a logical reason to waste time to take the baby seat out and put it back in again at every race meeting. That was the family's only road car last year, and Mike used it to win a championship. Barry Robinson exits from Shell and comes past the start and finish line, and he's a very lonely Barry Robinson indeed now, because 204 Mick Phillips, the local Birmingham man who'd been challenging him, has sadly retired from the race. So a disappointment there for Birmingham fans, but Barry Robinson is still comfortably in the lead. 2:22, the leader. Some parts of the circuit wet, other parts of them, such as the approach to Ferodo Corner here, really dry. And there's a stationary yellow flag on the approach to Ferodo indeed, as these two Class D cars battle their way on the approach to the tricky right-hander. Are we going to find a car in the gravel trap as they reach there? O'Connor and Edwards battling away, 911s driving both. No, there's the drama. Pulled off on the inside of the exit of the right-handed Ferodo Corner there. One car, bonnet up, driver out safely. That shouldn't cause any problems because the racing line is not on the tight exit of that corner. It's very much on a wider exit through Ferodo, so that car should cause no dramas. The yellow flags will indicate to drivers that there is a car in the way, and that'll cause them just to slow down, back off a little bit, and prevent them going into it. Jeff O'Connor, 3:24, John Edwards, 3:33. Two of the Class D cars. They're the cars with power bands not exceeding 140 brake horsepower and are very much what could be referred to as the babies in the Pirelli Porsche Club GB production Porsche series. An unusual series in that the classes are divided by power output rather than by capacity. John Edwards challenging hard to take the place from 3:24. Jeff O'Connor looks at the inside at each corner. And here you see the differences in the track surface once again. The very damp racing line at Molly Slip there. A tricky corner caught many a racer out this weekend. The 924s, of course, also racing in Class D, but the race leader finding himself in among that traffic now, but with such a terrific advantage now, he doesn't need to worry. He can afford to back off. Barry Robinson then completes 8 out of 10 laps. On to his penultimate lap he goes. A lot of traffic to duck and dive around for Robinson now, but not only that, he's got to keep an eye on the tricky, still damp parts of the circuit. The sun's now shining on Birmingham, a great improvement from the conditions at the start of this race, and a vast improvement over the conditions in which these Porsche racers practiced first thing on Sunday morning. Even so, Barry Robinson has to make use of the wet as well as the dry parts of the circuit. Here we see him pulling out onto that damp outer stretch of the circuit to lap Caroline Lucas, and he goes up towards Halfords, the sweeping left-hander at the end of the Belgrave middleway, with a very comfortable lead indeed, but just needing to concentrate not only on the surface but also on these back markers. He manages to lap the second of those two cars with no trouble at all. This time it's the back marker who chooses to move onto the damp stretch, leaving the race leader Barry Robinson with the dry central line. The sun really shining now, shadows being cast by the Porsches as Barry Robinson reaches Ferodo for the penultimate time. The stricken 911 still stationary on the inside of the circuit there, but causing no problems, and the yellow flag's now stationary rather than waved as down Metro Straight the race leader goes to Loctite Turn once again. The corner, of course, where Barry Robinson managed to gain an advantage unseen by him, but one which without doubt has been of benefit to him in this race. Divided as they are in classes by engine power, these cars are very evenly matched. This race stretched out considerably more than is normally the case. Caroline Lucas passes the camera once again in 54 LMU, the oldest car in the race, the 356, with the youngest driver in the race at the wheel, Caroline Lucas. a regular in Porsche races and also many other enthusiasts clubs meetings. She's frequently seen in the 3 and 4 hour relays organised by other major clubs like the 750 Motor Club, the Jaguar Car Club and so on. Barry Robinson then moves on to his last lap. He's passed the line already, lapping once again as he approaches Loctite turn. Paul Smith's 911, he laps there onto his final lap, this time now with his own windscreen wipers going. In the early stages, of course, it was the spray kicked up by Barry Robinson that caused the cars directly behind him to use their wipers. He's now finding from time to time he's got to make use of them as well. Following the demise that we've mentioned of Mick Phillips, of course, the local Birmingham man, second place is Bob Watson, one of the most regular supporters of Porsche racing for many years. Started from 6th position on the grid and has managed to carve his way up through the field as one or two of the runners ahead of him have got themselves into problems. We saw Mike Walker thumping the barrier. We've seen Peter Tyson having a lot of trouble keeping the car on the road. And we know, of course, of Mick Phillips's retirement. So Bob Watson is the man who's in second place, but he's the best part of 20 seconds behind in these closing stages. Although, as the last half of the last lap comes up, Barry Robinson is beginning noticeably to ease off now. There's no point, of course, Robinson putting himself under any pressure with a great cushion back to Bob Watson. Peter Tyson, the man who spun earlier on and got himself into a lot of trouble there at Ferodo, he's managed to get it all back together again and is in third place, but he's quite a distance behind Bob Watson as well. As the leader goes through for the final time, Zenith corner, the 90 left there, up the brief stretch of Bromsgrove Street, into Shell turn and up for the final time, where he'll take the checkered flag as he passes Bristol Street Motors to win the 10th round of the Pirelli Porsche Production Series. He takes Class C honours, and as the races are split as the way they are this weekend, he also takes overall race honours too. A delighted Barry Robinson crosses the line, checkered flag is waved in the background there. He waves to his pits as he passes them, and the official results show: first Barry Robinson 911E, second Bob Watson 911E, third Peter Tyson 911E, and the Class D leader finishing down in 7th place, Peter Bowden in his Porsche 924.